People think marriages die because of fights, affairs, money problems. And sometimes, yeah, that's true. But most of the time, it's smaller than that. A sentence you weren't ready to hear. A look that cuts deeper than any argument. For me, it happened on an ordinary Thursday night. We were sitting at the kitchen table, the one we bought secondhand when we first moved into this house 7 years ago. I had cooked chicken, roasted potatoes, a salad. Nothing fancy, just dinner. She barely touched her plate, scrolling on her phone between half-hearted bites. I tried to start a conversation. Asked about her day at work. She gave short answers, distracted, like her mind was somewhere else entirely. So I asked, "Is everything okay? You've been quiet lately." That's when she set her fork down, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You just don't inspire me anymore." It felt like a punch to the chest. Not angry, not emotional, just matter of fact, like she was telling me the weather. I sat there frozen, fork in my hand, staring across the table at the woman I married, the same woman who once told me she loved how motivated I was, how I gave her a reason to dream bigger. Now she was saying the exact opposite. I swallowed hard. What does that mean? She shrugged, looked back at her phone. I don't know. It just feels like you've stopped growing, stopped pushing yourself. And I don't want to feel stuck, you know. Like I was an anchor holding her back. Like I was some dead weight she had to drag along. She didn't say I don't love you. She didn't say I want to leave. But somehow, what she did say cut deeper. Because love you can fight for. Love you can try to fix. But inspiration? How do you prove your existence is still worth admiring? That night in bed, I lay awake staring at the ceiling while she scrolled her phone until she fell asleep. Her words echoed louder than the silence in the room. You don't inspire me anymore. And in that moment, I realized something. Maybe I couldn't make her see me the way she used to. Maybe she didn't even want to. But I could make sure of one thing. That when I left, she'd feel the absence of the man she dismissed. And she'd regret ever saying those words. The days after her words hung heavy, I didn't confront her again. I didn't ask what she meant. I didn't beg her to explain. Instead, I pulled back. If she thought I wasn't inspiring anymore, I wanted to see what happened when I stopped trying altogether. I stopped filling the silence. If dinner was quiet, I let it stay quiet. If she was buried in her phone, I didn't ask who she was texting. If she didn't ask about my day, I didn't offer anything. At first, she didn't seem to notice. She kept on with her scrolling, her late nights, working on projects, her weekends with friends. But slowly, I started catching little changes. She'd glance up from her phone more often, watching me while I read in the den. She started asking, "You okay?" when she saw me heading out in the evenings. And when I didn't give her much more than a nod, her voice would falter, softer, "You're different lately." I'd shrug, just tired. But it wasn't tiredness. It was clarity. I poured myself into things I'd let die. The gym first. I hadn't lifted seriously in years, but now I was in there every evening after work. By the end of the month, I felt stronger, leaner, more alive than I had in a long time. Then my old side projects. I dusted off the tools in the garage, started building again, tables, shelves, small things. It gave me purpose. And more importantly, it gave me space away from her. I even signed up for a weekend class, photography, something I always wanted to try but never made time for. And the more I built a life outside of her, the more unsettled she looked inside the house. One night, she poked her head into the garage while I was finishing a project. "You've been busy out here," she said, her voice almost careful. "Yeah, you never used to. People change." Her lips pressed together like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just stood there for a second, watching me, then walked away. That was when it hit me. She didn't like this version of me. Not because I wasn't trying, but because I wasn't trying for her. She used to hold all the power. She was the one I chased, the one I planned around, the one I begged to see me. Now the roles were shifting, and she didn't know what to do with that. The irony? The more distant I became, the more she tried to act interested. She started cooking again, meals she hadn't bothered with in months. She suggested we go out to a movie, something she hadn't asked in years. She even wore that red dress one Saturday night and said, "Wanna grab dinner?" Just the two of us. I went, but I didn't make it easy for her. I smiled politely, ate quietly, and when she asked, "Do you ever think about us?" I answered simply, "All the time. That's why I'm changing." She didn't ask what I meant. She just sipped her wine and looked away. But here's what she didn't know. I wasn't changing for her. I was changing for the man she stopped seeing years ago. And while she thought she was reeling me back in, I was already preparing my exit. Quietly, patiently, because one day soon, she was going to wake up and realize the man she dismissed was gone. And the man she thought didn't inspire her anymore would be the one she could never have back. By March, the house felt heavier than ever. Not because we were fighting, we weren't, but because the silence between us had changed. It wasn't the lazy, distracted silence of two people coexisting. It was sharper now. She felt it. I knew it. Every time I walked out the door without explanation, I saw the flicker in her eyes. Every time I stayed up late in the garage, she lingered at the doorway, like she wanted to ask, but didn't know how. Every time I answered her questions with short, clipped words, she looked a little less sure of herself. The balance of power had shifted, and she hated it. She started trying in ways I hadn't seen in years. I'd come home from the gym to find her cooking a full dinner, candles on the table. She'd pour me wine, laugh a little too loud at things I said, and ask about my day like she was suddenly interested. One Saturday, she even suggested we take a weekend trip. Just the two of us, she said, smiling nervously, like we used to. I stared at her for a long moment, then said, "I'll think about it." She blinked, thrown off by the lack of enthusiasm. But I wasn't interested in playing along. Not anymore. The truth was, by then, I already had a plan. I'd opened a new bank account she didn't know about, transferring money quietly over time. I'd rented a storage unit across town, slowly moving boxes there when she wasn't around, tools, clothes, old photos that mattered to me. And I'd already signed a lease on a small apartment. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was mine. Every step I took was calculated, every detail prepared. She thought I was just moody, detached, maybe even going through some midlife phase. But I wasn't drifting. I was preparing. The irony was almost cruel. The more I prepared to leave, the harder she worked to keep me. She started dressing up more, wearing perfume again, leaving her phone face up on the counter, like she wanted me to notice she had nothing to hide. She even climbed into bed one night, curled into me, and whispered, "I don't want to lose you." And for a moment, just one moment, I almost felt the pull. Almost. But then her words from months ago echoed in my head, "You don't inspire me anymore." And just like that, the softness in me shut down again. Because I wasn't going to be guilt back into a marriage where I had been dismissed, overlooked, diminished. The closer I got to leaving, the calmer I felt. She thought she was rebuilding us. But really, she was rehearsing for the day she realized she had lost me for good. And I was going to make sure that realization landed in the most unforgettable way possible. Because I wasn't just going to walk out. I was going to walk out at the exact moment she thought she finally had me back. It happened on a rainy Friday night. She told me she was going to a networking dinner. Normally, I wouldn't have cared. By then, I had already set the wheels in motion. My exit was planned down to the smallest detail. But something about the way she dressed that night set me off. The extra perfume. The nervous glance in the mirror before she left. The way she tucked her phone into her purse like it was a secret. So I followed. She didn't go downtown to a restaurant like she said. She drove across town to a hotel off the highway. My chest was heavy, but my hands stayed steady on the wheel. Because deep down, I already knew. I parked a few cars away and watched. Minutes later, another car pulled in. A man stepped out, sharp suit, confident. She lit up when she saw him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. And then she kissed him. Not a nervous, guilty kiss. No, a practiced kiss. A kiss with history behind it. I sat there, rain tapping against the windshield, and I didn't explode. Didn't rage. Didn't storm in. Because this wasn't a discovery. This was confirmation. She once told me I didn't inspire her anymore. Now I knew who did. I didn't confront her, didn't give her the satisfaction of a scene. Instead, I drove home. Calm, cold, decisive. That night, I finished what I'd been preparing for months. I loaded the last boxes into my truck, cleared out the garage, took only what was mine and left the rest behind. On the kitchen table, I left an envelope. Inside were the signed divorce papers and a note. Just one line written in my hand. You said I didn't inspire you anymore. Maybe now you'll remember who built the life you took for granted. By the time she walked through the door after midnight, heels in her hand, hair messy, I was already gone. The house was half empty. My side of the closet bare. My tools gone from the garage. For years, she claimed I didn't inspire her. Now she had silence. Now she had emptiness. Now she had exactly what she thought she wanted. And the man she dismissed, the man she thought would always be there, was never coming back.